Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 984. 984, December the 12th, 2019, Thursday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, well, we have, as typical, the last few days, it's just packed full of information. And again, I'll probably not get to it all, but I'll give it my best shot. So let's talk first about the hearings, hearings in the Senate with Lindsey Graham and Huckleberry Horowitz. You know, Huckleberry Horowitz, he looked a little sad. He looked at times a little disturbed, and was kind of a Jekyl Hyde in a lot of ways. There were certain times when Democrats were trying to press him to make some sort of a point. He didn't give them what they wanted. There were some times when he didn't give a Republican what they wanted. So, he obviously had a calculated plan going into this. Again, he is the custodian for the Department of Justice. His job is to clean up the mess and try to protect the institution, that being the DOJ and the FBI. That's why I refer to him as the custodian. But Huckleberry Horowitz was a bit of a Jekyll Hyde today. Here's just a couple of things that I noted. First of all, I thought Lindsey Graham did a reasonably good job in his opening statement. It started off a little slow. I think it could have been a little. Done better. He kind of got fired up toward the end, but it was a reasonably good job. I think it could have been better, but it's Lindsey Graham, so we have to keep that in mind. It was obvious that the Democrats had a plan, a strategy. I'm sure that they all got together and huddled before the hearings to make sure that they were all on point together with their talking points. And the main thing that they wanted to focus on, it was clear because every one of them went right to this, and pretty much it's all they pounded over and over and over again with Horowitz, is the statement that he makes in the IG report where he says that there was no testimonial or documentary evidence of political bias. And so Democrats tried to run that as hard as they could, but he was pushed back on that on a couple occasions. But when Republicans tried to push him on to come out and say there was political bias, he also pushed back there. So it's clear that he doesn't want to be the one to make the call. And essentially what he's saying is that he didn't have anyone openly admit to him to say, yeah, it was all about political bias. Okay, so he didn't have a testimonial. And he found no documentary evidence, meaning he found no documents of people actually saying, yes, this is all about the political nature of this investigation. This is all political. Of course, you're never going to find something like that. But the entire first 218 pages is nothing but 218 pages of political bias. So, it's not going to work. What the Democrats are trying to do here is not going to work, because ultimately, Durham is going to indict, I think, anywhere from 1 to 3 dozen high-level people in the FBI, DOJ. There'll be some other people probably being indicted or charged with crimes outside of the government. And so there's going to be a lot of people that are going to go down on this. And, of course, we know how the Democrats are going to play it. They're going to say, okay, well, this is Durham and Barr acting as Trump's surrogate, going after his political enemies because they're Republicans, and they want to try to influence the 2020 election and all this sort of thing. Barr and Durham are quite aware of that, and that's why Barr has a plan. So we'll get to that in a little while. So we had Diane Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein, basically in her opening statement, complete lies, obviously. She knows that 99.999% of people, especially Democrats, are not going to read a single word of the Horowitz report. They're just going to wait for CNN and MSNBC and others to lie to them about what's in the report. So Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein is counting on ignorant Democrat voters, and they can always count on them, and they'll never be disappointed. Feinstein basically tried to make the point that there was no political motivation, and that there is no deep state. No deep state. Everyone's aware of the fact that there's a deep state. Everyone knows there's a deep state, and it's been proven right here. But again, they can spin this. The Democrats can spin it. The media can spin it. They can spin all they want. But I'm telling you, John Durham is going to take the spin out of their cycle. You just watch and see. And her attack was, the attack by Turning Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein, was really targeting Attorney General Barr. Fortunately, Attorney General Barr doesn't give a flip about that, and you can clearly see that when he does these interviews. It's one thing I do like about Attorney General Barr. It reminds me in a lot of ways about Trump, but they approach things differently. But you can tell that Barr, he doesn't give a damn about the politics of it, the Democrats. He sort of laughs and chuckles and makes his own little kind of remarks. And you just know that, he doesn't have Trump's personality and he doesn't approach it the way Trump does. But you just know that Attorney General Barr, every time he reads a Trump tweet, probably does a fist pump. So anyway, Turning Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein look like an idiot trying to make the case that Barr is politically motivated, that there's no deep state, and that there was no political motivation when it's all through the damn IG report. And a lot of legal matters, criminal cases, a big factor a lot of the time is intent, criminal intent. And the beauty of this thing is that John Durham has been given the ultimate Christmas present from the Democrats and from the deep state fools. Because when you get in front of a jury and he starts reading those texts and those emails, he will have no problem getting a jury to find that there absolutely was criminal intent. The fact that these idiots tweeted all this stuff to each other and instant messaged each other and emailed each other with all these comments shows that these are not really very bright people. If you're involved in a criminal conspiracy, it's generally best to keep it very quiet. But they were, I wouldn't say publicly, but through the communication systems of the FBI and the DOJ, they were expressing their extreme political bias and hatred for Trump. It's right there in their own words. And there is nothing more damning to a defendant in front of a jury when a prosecutor can read the defendant's comments to the jury, things they actually did say, not hearsay, not what you think, not things they've done that make it look that way. He's got their actual words, which will overwhelmingly prove intent and weigh very heavy on a jury and will ultimately guarantee that the perps are going to be taking a perp walk right into the federal penitentiary. And that's why John Durham is smiling big. He probably sitting back watching Feinstein today, laughing his ass off, thinking, oh man. Believe me, that clip from Turning Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein, is going to be a classic after Durham finishes his investigation and has put dozens of these people in prison. At that point, it'll be fun to come back and watch this video. Then there was the part of the hearing which is a real head-scratcher where Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz, the custodian, says, and in fact repeats, he's not said this just once, but it's in his report, and he repeated it again, that he repeats that there's no spying on the Trump campaign and that there was no confidential informant in the campaign. That's just extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. Now, maybe he didn't interview the fat man, Stefan Halper. Maybe he didn't interview Mr. Greenberg. Maybe he didn't interview Downer. Maybe he didn't interview Mifsud. In fact, I'm sure he didn't. So what the correct thing for Horowitz to do in this case would have been to say that he has no evidence. He did not. It was not in the scope of his investigation to interview people outside the FBI DOJ, so that he can't comment on whether or not there were confidential informants in the campaign. That would have been the correct thing. For him to come out and say that there wasn't, as sort of a statement of fact, he's going to be very embarrassed when John Durham slaps the cuffs on the perps. That is going to probably make Horowitz, a little uncomfortable when that happens. But he'll still be invited along with his wife to the Georgetown cocktail parties, And so I guess they'll pat him on the back and say, well, Huck, you did your damn best, man. What can you say? You did your best. Have a drink. Be happy you're not going to prison. But on the other hand, we had Horowitz telling Lindsey Graham that, in fact, that his report does not vindicate anybody. And this was in reference to a question that Graham asked Huckleberry Horowitz about Comey going out and taking a victory lap and talking about the fact that he's been vindicated. And, of course, Huckleberry Horowitz told Graham that his report does not in any way, shape, or form vindicate anybody. It certainly doesn't. That's quite the opposite. It's very damning, actually. And, of course, we know that Brennan and Clapper are both caught here in a big fat lie, and we've known this for a very long time. This is not new, but it's just kind of reiterated, came out in the hearings again, because both Mr. Potato Head and the unwitting idiot Clapper had both gone on MSNBC and CNN and stated that the dossier played no part in the ICA, the Intelligence Community Assessment, ordered by Barack Hussein Obama. But we have learned since then, and of course we knew they were lying at the time, but we now have the evidence that, of course, the dossier made up a big part of the ICA, and in fact, what we have now is Brennan and Clapper are basically saying that that it was Comey, the former director of the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her, the dishonorable James Comey, who's soon to be a prison inmate, that Comey was insistent, Comey and McCabe actually, were insistent that the dossier information go into the ICA. The problem is not just the, for Clapper, I can't remember in his hearing if he was specifically asked about that. The comments I'm referring to are ones they've made on TV, which they're not under oath on TV, so they go and lie. But Brennan, on the other hand, Mr. Potato Head, was under oath in Congress when he was asked, and he said that not only did the dossier not have anything to do with the ICA, but in fact he said he didn't even learn about it until December. Boy. So, of course, Mr. Potato Head, of course, will also be going to federal prison, along with Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, and many others. He was lying to Congress there, and, of course, Clapper's been caught lying. Well, Clapper's always lying, basically. Are you spying on millions of Americans? Not wittingly. Right. Right. Yes, so the demo commies, of course, spent the entire hearing defending, and this is terrifying, that they were defending the actions of the corrupt FBI and DOJ. Can you imagine if the same thing had been done by the Bush administration to Barack Hussein Obama, what the Democrats would be doing? Can you imagine if it was the Hillary Clinton campaign that would have had a dossier written up on them by Bush or somebody else, or by Trump, or what have you? You can imagine it would be a totally 180 degrees response. But it's very disheartening to, you would think that when you get to issues like this, something so massively dangerous as to have the deep state spying on any political campaign for any reason, Republican or Democrat or private citizens or what have you. Of course, they do it all the time. They just got caught. Every now and then they get caught. But to watch the Democrats defending this was, shows you how bad things actually are, and that's why people have to go to prison. And I think that that's all this does is reinforce in Barr and Durham's mind that they cannot let people off the hook here. They cannot, because they're witnessing what happens if you do. There are going to be too many people in the deep state, in the swamp, and one of the two, if not both political parties, that will cover up and defend all of this. That they have no problem with this kind of abuse at all by government. And that's what's going to make Barr and Durham conclude that the Congress is not responsible enough to handle the oversight and do the things necessary to make sure it doesn't happen again. So it's up to Barr and Durham to make sure that this thing does not get pushed off to the side, written off, and just left to wither on the vine without any action being taken, because it ultimately will be nothing more than an incentive for deep state agencies to do this again, and to have cheerleaders like the demo commies supporting every bit of it, which is sad and frustrating and maddening and frightening, quite honestly. Huckleberry Horowitz made it perfectly clear that the FISA was based totally on the dossier. And remember when Comey was on Fox News with Brett Baer? Oh yeah, oh yeah. And he's going to be on with Chris Wallace Sunday morning. Comey is. And do you think that Chris Wallace is going to hold his feet to the fire? We'll wait and see, because he's got that clip of Comey telling Brett Baer a whole lot of bullshit, that exactly 180 degrees the opposite of what Horowitz found in his report. Because Horowitz says, oh yeah, the FISA based really totally on the dossier, pretty much. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, there's more here, but I'm running out of time, so let's move on. I'm sure you can watch the hearings, you can watch clips of the hearings. There was some highlights and some lowlights, and you can see it all for yourself. But it was basically a shit show from the Democrats' point of view. Republicans did a reasonably good job. Republicans in the Senate are not nearly as good as some of the Freedom Caucus guys in the House. So, you do the best you can with what you've got. So, Attorney General Barr, the thing I want to focus on here for a minute is, I think it's real key that both Durham came out immediately after the IG report came out and made his statement. Barr came out and made his statement. Then he went on NBC. We talked about that yesterday with Pete Williams and made him look like a fool. Then he went on with the Wall Street Journal as well. So I think what's key about this is that Barr did not go to Fox. You never see Barr on Fox. He doesn't really do too many interviews with Fox. I think he does it for good reason. He doesn't want to be seen as politically biased. And I think it's interesting that he took his statement directly to NBC and to the Wall Street Journal. Now, he may have more interviews scheduled, I don't know. But in both of those interviews, he stuck to his guns. Again, Barr is hardcore. I mean, the guy, and you can tell he doesn't give a damn about, the politics of it or all these sorts of things. Something, I think, one of the most important things I heard him say, and I think it was in the Wall Street Journal interview, where he said that that it's very likely that Durham will have completed his investigation by late spring of 2020. Now, that's fantastic, because it actually reinforces something I said on my TowerGate video about, I don't know, several weeks back, where I said that I believe that that Barr and Durham understand how politically charged this is. They understand exactly what's going to happen when they indict the criminals. They're going to be accused of being lackeys for Trump and carrying the water for Trump. The Democrats and the deep staters are going to try to delegitimize Barr and Durham's investigation, and they're going to try to make it look like it's a political deal. And so Barr and Durham both understand the political charged nature of this. And as I said several weeks back, I think that Barr would like Durham to wrap this up before the general election, because they don't want this hanging over, and they don't want these indictments coming down in the middle of a general election, because it will look way too political. So I think that Barr has probably told Durham to get as many people as you need and try to have this wrapped up, try to have the criminals indicted by no later than late spring of 2020. And what is late spring of 2020? It's the end of the primary season and the beginning of the general election. I don't think Barr wants this happening and going on during the general election. I think he wants this thing aired out, the criminals cuffed and in jail, or at least charged or indicted by late spring 2020 when the general election starts. I don't think he wants this to carry on and linger and find its way into the political mix, because it will be used by Democrats against Republicans. It will be used against Trump. It will be used to tar and feather Barr and Durham. They're not stupid men. They're not going to set themselves up for that type of attack. So I think that that's what Barr meant by that when he said he expects Durham to have it wrapped up late spring 2020. In other words, what I said weeks and weeks ago, is that Barr understands the political nature of this, and he wants this thing aired out before the general election starts. And so I think that that's why Durham's been pressing so hard, and why he asked for more people, more resources, and all these sorts of things. I think that they want to put this thing on the fast track. Horowitz did a lot of the groundwork on a lot of the stuff, but the stuff outside the FBI, DOJ is where Durham is focusing a lot of his attention. And we know just from his statement that he obviously has already determined that that there was political bias affecting the investigation, and that there actually was crimes committed. So I think that's important to note. I think it's important that Barr is not going to friendly type conservative outlets. He is going to what you would consider to be liberal, or so certainly left of center news places to get the word out. And so, yes, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, I think it's all good. I think we got the main thing that we got out of the hearings was we did establish exactly the crimes that were committed, and I think it's the beginning of the turning of the narrative. And so I think that that's what's important to keep in mind here. Of course, Trump held a rally last night. He was on fire. He was absolutely hilarious. And it's just extraordinary to watch Donald Trump. He seems completely unfazed by any of this. I mean, most other people, the stress alone of going through what he's been through would drive them into a very depressed state. But nothing seems to depress Trump. He seems to gain energy by it. And he's an extraordinary person, the way that he's able to take so much, and it just doesn't seem to affect him. He almost feeds on it. And you can see at his rally last night, he has fun with it. I mean, he actually turns it into a circus. He has fun with it. He uses everything that's thrown against him, as he turns it into something as a positive in a lot of ways, and he uses it as ammunition, and he thrives on it. This is why he's such an extraordinary president and extraordinary person in general, really. Trump was on fire last night at his rally. It was a huge rally, and he continues to be the beneficiary of the dirty tricks of the deep state and the demo commies. I thought that Mike Lee made a very good comment in the hearings, pretty much said exactly what I've said on a couple of occasions, where he told Horowitz, he said, there's only two possibilities here that you lay out in the IG report. One possibility is that FBI agents purposely abused their power to wage a political war against a presidential candidate. Or, number two, they were so incompetent they let a foreign political operative weaponize the FISA program into spying on a political campaign. Let me read that again. They were so incompetent they let a foreign political operative weaponize the FISA program into a spying operation on a rival presidential campaign. Exactly. It's one of those two. It's either complete corruption or complete incompetence. And I don't think anybody's going to suggest that these people are quite that stupid. They're not brilliant, but they're certainly not stupid. But remember, they never believed that Trump was going to win. They never thought there was any chance whatsoever until you can see in their texts, early on in June, July, August, September, they seemed to come from a point of view that they had nothing to fear. Trump wasn't going to win. But you start to see their text change in October, November, when the polls start showing and the news reports start saying, hey, there's a chance that Trump could actually win. That's when they started getting really nervous, and that's when they started talking about insurance policies. Of course, tomorrow they're going to be, or today actually, as you're watching this video, is going to be the parliamentary elections in the UK. Very important. We'll all be watching very closely. I know Mike G will be all over it, and I know Mike G will be voting, along with many other subs here to this channel who are over in the UK. Everybody's watching very closely, and we're all pulling, of course, for hopefully a big conservative win. Boris Johnson hiding in a freezer, that's okay. The polls have tightened up. There was some movement looking like conservatives were going to do really, really well. Then there was some late movement. Looks like maybe the Lib Dems maybe have made some moves in the right direction. But I think that the conservatives are still showing as having a slight edge. But there's a lot of propaganda flying around, so I don't believe a lot of media reports. And of course, the Nigel Farage strategy is going to be in play. We'll have to see how that pans out. I don't live in the UK. I'm not an expert on UK politics, but my gut is telling me what my gut was telling me back during the Brexit vote. My gut was telling me that they were going to pass Brexit, and that came out to be true. My gut is telling me that Conservatives are going to do pretty damn well in the parliamentary elections, and let's just hope my gut is right twice. Good luck to you there, Mike, and all of our friends across the pond fighting the same damn deep state that we're fighting here. And we're winning over here, and I think that you're winning over there too. It's just a tough fight. Well, of course, the other shit show that was occurring yesterday in the evening, we got the primetime version of the shit show, the Circus Act, there with the Penguin, the articles of impeachment debates. Of course, I don't think anybody actually is watching any of that. Nobody really cares about the impeachment debates. No one really paying much attention to that, so I'm sure the ratings are going to be piss poor, completely abysmal. Haven't seen the ratings yet. We'll find out tomorrow, but my guess is not too many people watching the primetime lineup there with the Penguin, the snoozer. He's probably sleeping during those hearings as well. And of course, no one wants to listen to that idiot Daniel Goldman, the attorney or the investigator, or whatever you want to call him, the staffer for the impeachment inquiry, both for Schiff and now for Nadler. Of course, he's already been made to look like a complete partisan hack by Republicans in that on that committee, both in the Senate and on the House, and in the Senate, the Intelligence and the Senate committees. So this guy, of course, this lead investigator, this Daniel Goldman, one thing to note about him as he's being shredded on a daily basis in these hearings is that he had been quoted, I don't know if it was a tweet or a statement, a quote of some sort, that he said that the Steele dossier was absolutely true. This is the lead investigator for the Democrats. This guy, back some time ago, said that the dossier was absolutely proven true. He must look like a fool today. I wonder if anybody's going to call him on that. I'm not watching. The hearings are going on right now. But I certainly hope someone brings that back up to him. And he'll certainly look like a damn fool. The list of Democrats who may now defect and not vote for impeachment next week is now up to 6. It appears that there are now 6 Democrats. There's many, many more that behind closed doors are talking about they want to go for a censure or something else. They're terrified to take the vote. Their phone lines back home are being jammed, phones ringing off the hook with people grilling them over this. Their town halls are being taken over by people accusing them of supporting a coup. I mean, this is unbelievable to watch this happen. Nancy Pelosi, Madam Botox, has put her members in an incredibly difficult position. And again, as I've said, I don't understand it. What's going on here? Senility, fear. I just don't know. There's no explanation for such a poor political strategic move. But it continues to play itself out. There's 6. That's 2 more than we had 2 days ago. It was 4. Now it's 6. By next week, I'm not so sure, as I've said before, that they have the votes. I'm not so sure. If they lose, they can lose 18, actually 19, because they are going to get Justin Amash. So they can lose 19, where they're down 6, 13 to go. If by this time next week they don't hold that vote, I don't think that's why she is rushing this thing. She wants to try to get it done. Now, she made that trade-off with these Democrats who are saying, we're getting killed at home. We're getting absolutely crucified. You won't pass this trade deal, the USMCA, which would be so good for so many people in my district. I'm hearing it from manufacturers, from farmers. I'm hearing it from all kinds of people. We're refusing to do anything good for the folks. All we're doing is concentrating on impeachment. You're going to cost us our seats. We're going to lose the House. So Nancy Pelosi was forced to make a move on USMCA, but now Twitch McConnell over in the Senate has countered her by saying that he is not going to bring it up for a vote in the Senate until the impeachment hearings are over. So now Twitch McConnell is countering Madam Pelosi to complicate matters even worse, throwing a blocking move at her. And now the Democrats, again, these 31 Democrats now, even though they were thrown a bone, it looks like it's not going to be much good to it because McConnell just went out and buried it behind the doghouse until the hearings are over, and he can drag those hearings out as long as he wants. He's pretty much the guy controlling the ball once it moves over to the Senate, and he's got Pelosi by the scrotum. And she knows it. Well, we have the Burisma Joe Biden. That's right, Burisma Joe Biden now floating this idea that he will only serve one term. And apparently this is some comment that he made to some of his campaign staffers who are concerned and starting to get wobbly in the knees. And apparently he kind of went off on him and said, yeah, I'm only going to serve one term. So you don't have to, because apparently they're talking about his health, his gaffes and things like that. And he actually said, you don't have to worry about my health or my gaffes because I'm only going to serve one term. Well, that's a horrible campaign to go out and campaign for president and tell people, yeah, I'm only going to serve one term because I make so many gaffes and I'm obviously mentally out of it. Probably not a good thing. So then his campaign, after this story breaks, then his campaign is forced to come out and make a statement contradicting that. So whether or not it happened, I'm sure it did. But again, Biden and his campaign are a mess, a total wreck, a train wreck. And so Burisma Joe Biden, I mean, this guy just every single day. I've never seen a candidate this bad before. I thought the rotten Reverend Clinton was the worst candidate I'd ever seen, and that's worse, even worse than McGovern. But no, actually, Burisma Joe is actually worse than the rotten Reverend. Speaking of the USMCA, you know, the Central Valley of California is... People don't realize how much of our agriculture comes from the Central Valley in California. There's a lot of voters out there. As I've said before, I really believe that the Republican Party should really put some serious effort into California. People say California's gone, it's lost, it's never going to come back. My friends, I remember when California was a solid red state and Texas was a solid blue state. I remember Reagan winning the governorship there. I remember Pete Wilson being the governor there. Even Schwarzenegger was a Republican, not a good Republican, but he ran as one. I remember when California was quite the Republican state. And with the state of things as they are, and the fact that a lot of people are benefiting from Trump's extraordinarily wonderful policies, and the Democrats are in the shape that they're in, I think that they should make an effort out in California. And this USMCA trade deal is it's kind of a major impact out in California. It's a big ag state. In fact, I think probably the biggest ag state just because it's such a big state. I mean, the Central Valley of California is larger than a lot of the Nebraska and Kansas and a lot of these farm states, Wisconsin, Iowa, places like that. The Central Valley of California has just as large of an ag business as they do. So I think we should work on California. I think it's in play. Buttigieg is on top in New Hampshire. It looks like Booty Boy is making a roll. It's not because he's a great candidate. It's because everyone else sucks so bad that he's going to get a shot in the limelight. But it won't take him long to shoot it down because he doesn't have much support from blacks and Latinos. That'll ultimately ruin him. But on top of that fact, he goes out and basically says in so many words that all Trump supporters are basically racist. That's like the rotten Reverend Clinton going out and calling all Trump supporters deplorables. It's an absolute guarantee that you are going to lose an election when you call half the people in the country racist. So say goodbye to Booty Boy. He's going nowhere. Trump in his rally last night said that would be his dream candidate to run against, and I don't blame him. I'd love to run against Buttigieg. He's weak, very, very weak. Of course, you couldn't do much worse than Michael Bloomberg, who comes out and says that he will pick, if he's president, he will pick a court, or that he will fill the court. He will pack the court with anti-gun justices. Yeah, well, when you packing the court with anti-gun justices, you've just lost 31 states. Thank you very much. You're done, Mr. Bloomberg. So there we go. We managed to squeeze it all in. The only thing I would say, the video will probably cut off where I'm saying it, but anyway, Horowitz was asked if he was aware of ever having something like this done before by the FBI getting involved in a political campaign. He said he wasn't, when in fact, actually, I'm quite aware of a situation. Actually, Hoover got involved in the Nixon election in '72. He provided Lyndon Johnson with photographs of Kennedy in the sack with a woman, and those were given to Johnson so Johnson could use that to blackmail Kennedy into putting him on the ticket. Thank you very much. You guys have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.